Hi, I'm Fergus Cullen. I'm a senior.
Hi, I'm Scott Eckel, and I'm a senior.
Hi, I'm Ken Martin. I'm a junior.
I'm Kyle Mikolas, and I'm a senior.
And joining us for the program this evening as well as the coach of the team, Jonathan Whiting. The alternates are Rachel Regan and Michael Colby, the Eagles of Gilford Middle High School. Well, things haven't changed. We still play in 4 rounds. We have a couple of rounds of 10-point toss-up questions. We have a bonus round and a 60-second round that we'll tell you all about. But in round number 1, Mascenic and Gilford, 10-point toss-up questions. Good luck, and here we go. For 10 points, what name is now most often used for a scale of temperature formerly known as the centigrade scale? We have Scott of Gilford.
Celsius.
Celsius is absolutely right for your 10 points. Another 10-point toss-up. What phrase meaning to become a candidate for public office is associated with the products of a haberdashery? You throw one's hat into the ring. You throw one's hat into the ring. Something like that, you know? All right, for a 10-point toss-up question. Ivan IV had himself crowned in 1547, not as a prince, but as a czar. We have Scott of Gilford.
Russia.
You can repeat it all for Mascenic. Ivan IV had himself crowned in 1547, not as a prince, but as a czar. The word czar was a translation of the name of what former ruler of Rome? Mark.
Who's Caesar?
Caesar is correct for your 10 points. All right, we are just underway in round number 1. Teams with paper and pencil in front of you, if you feel you need it. We want you to express as a Roman numeral the year in which President Bush took office. It was in the year MCMLXXXIX. Simple as that. Ready? Put 10-point toss-up. What novel by Somerset Maugham was about a worldly young man who left his rather comfortable life and converted to Hinduism? It's called The Razor's Edge. The Razor's Edge. Still another 10-point toss-up on the table. What is defined in the Constitution as levying war against the states, or adhering to their enemies, or giving them aid and comfort? Scott of Gilford.
Treason.
Treason is absolutely right. That's what we're looking for. He said the most beautiful and most profound emotion we can experience is the sensation of the mystical. It is the source of all true science. Who was this extraordinary physicist and mathematician? Scott of Gilford.
Isaac Asimov.
Mascenic. Doug?
Einstein.
It was Albert Einstein for your 10 points. Still in round 1 for 10 points. What name for a missile developed by the United States during the Cold War was named after a group of armed American civilians? Ken of Gilford.
The Minuteman?
The Minuteman is it for your 10 points. Through how many European countries could you travel after leaving the Principality of Andorra and traveling west by southwest? Mark of Mascenic. 2 is right for your 10 points. All right, we're playing well in round number 1, teams. Keep it up. Here we go for 10 points. What is the name of the unofficial Black Freedom Anthem, almost entirely suppressed in South Africa, that was given prominent recognition by President Johnson and that is often associated with the late Martin Luther King? Scott of Gilford.
We Shall Overcome.
We Shall Overcome. All right, teams, here in round number 1, we want you to take a look at the monitor for the first time this evening, and we want you to name this impressionist. Ken of Gilford.
Rembrandt.
Mascenic. Matt.
Go.
That leaves us pretty much with Claude Monet. Claude Monet. Here we go for another 10-point toss-up. Spell the heteronym that can mean either a high citadel or someone who pulls another's vehicle with chains or ropes. Scott of Gilford.
T-O-W-E-R.
Tower or tower? Absolutely right. And we have another 10-point toss-up. Many of the B-52 bombing raids of North Vietnam were made by aircraft stationed in what country to the west of Laos? Gilford, Fergus.
Cambodia.
Mascenic. It was Thailand. Thailand for 10 points. Express as a decimal the equivalent of 10 to the negative fourth power. Matt of Mascenic.
0.0001.
Correct. Absolutely right. All right, we go with 10-point toss-up question. She was perverse and wild. She was an outcast in a constant trial for her mother named Hester. Name this child from Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. Her name was Pearl. Pearl. Still in round number 1 of our game for 10 points. Article 3 of the Constitution states that the trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by Mark of Mascenic. Jury is right for your 10 points. Just under 3 minutes to play in our round, teams. What prefix is appended to sound when referring to waves produced by objects vibrating more than 20,000 times per second? Fergus of Gilford.
Micro.
Mascenic. Doug.
Phono.
It is ultra. Ultra for 10 points. What did Franklin Roosevelt say in his inaugural address in 1932 was the only thing Americans, we have Ken of Gilford,
Fear itself.
had to fear but fear itself? Right for 10 points. An executive has been given the power and authority to do anything he wants to get his company into the black. What two French words, literally meaning a blank card, Scott of Gilford?
Laissez-faire.
I can repeat it all for Mascenic. An executive has been given the power and authority to do anything he wants to get his company into the black. What two French words, literally meaning a blank card, describe what this executive has received? He has been given carte blanche for another 10 points, teams. Whose brother founded the city of Santo Domingo on the island of Hispaniola in the year 1496? Mark of Mascenic.
Columbus.
Christopher Columbus, absolutely, for 10 points. All right, teams, for the first time, we want you to listen to some music and tell me who composed this piece of music. We have Fergus of Gilford.
Tchaikovsky.
Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite is right for your 10 points. All right, again, if you need paper and pencil in front of you, they're there to use. One leg of a right triangle is 6 meters. The other is 8 meters in length. We have Matt of Mascenic.
10.
10 judges. Okay, we'll repeat it all then. One leg of a right triangle is 6 meters. The other is 8 meters in length. The length of the hypotenuse is equal to the square root of, Ken?
100.
Of 100. That is right for your 10 points. All right, we're into the closing stages of round number 1. Whose sister-in-law once sent a letter to her imploring her to write something that would make the whole nation feel what an accursed thing slavery is? Mark of Mascenic.
Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Harriet Beecher Stowe, another 10 points from Mascenic. In what article of the law of the land are these words found? All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States. Fergus of Gilford.
The Constitution.
Mascenic. Mark.
Bill of Rights.
We were looking, as the question said, in what article of the law of the land. It was Article 1. There's our whistle ending our first round. And look at this first round. After the first round of play, it's Milford on top by a score of 80-70. Okay, we head right into round number 2, and in round number 2 we still have our 10-point toss-up questions, but the team that identifies the toss-up then has a chance at additional bonus points. So again, Gilford and Mascenic, a very important round. Here we go for a 10-point toss-up question. Sometimes snow can fall from a cloudless sky. This occurs when water vapor in the air turns directly into ice. What term from physical science describes this transformation? We're looking for the term sublimation. Sublimation. All right, again, now we want you to take a look at the monitor here in the studio. How many real number solutions are there? We have Matt of Mascenic.
2.
Can repeat it all for Gilford and take a look at it again. How many real number solutions are there for this equation? Ken?
None.
None is absolutely right for your 10 points. Well done. All right, Gilford, so we come to you for bonus. You can talk among yourself. Your categories are literary, geography, or science.
Geography.
All right, we'll go with geography again. Talk among yourself. Captain Fergus gives me your team answers. Name these musical states of the Union. Rodgers and Hammerstein collaborated on what musical?
Oklahoma.
For 5 points. In Oh, Susanna, the singer with the banjo on his knee hails from what state?
Louisiana.
It is Alabama. And what's the home of the Yellow Rose?
Texas.
Of Texas. 10 out of 15 total on their bonus. Well done. Right, here is another 10-point toss-up question. Pinckney's Treaty was signed in 1795 and dealt with the boundary between East and West Florida. It was a treaty between the United States and what other country, Mark of Mascenic?
Spain.
Spain is right for 10 points. So we'll come to you, Mascenic. Your categories: literature, science, and weights and measures.
Science.
Science it'll be. Again, talk among yourself. Captain Mark gives me your team answers. Genetic variation in living things which appears suddenly is called?
Mutation.
Correct for 5 points. A unit on a chromosome is? Careful, audience.
A gene.
Correct for 5 points. The region where a nerve impulse moves from axon to dendrite is?
Synapses. Synapses.
Synapses is right for 15 out of 15. All right, we have another 10-point toss-up and a very well-played first-round game. What slang word rhyming with rickety means fastidious or snobbish? Emily of Mascenic.
Fickety?
Gilford? Fergus?
Finicky.
How about persnickety? Persnickety. Let's go with another 10-point toss-up. Paper and pencil if you really need it. Upon arrival at the airport, you find that your plane has been delayed 3 1/4 hours. This delay is equal to how many minutes? Ken of Gilford.
375.
Mark of Mascenic.
195.
Say again?
195.
That is correct. 195 is right. All right, back to you, Mascenic. We have literature, we have weights and measures, and we have toms.
Weights and measures.
Liked them all, I can see, Mark. Here we go. Weights and measures. Identify each of the following. The number of pounds in 32 ounces.
2.
Correct for 5 points. The number of hundredweights in 300 pounds.
3.
Correct for 5 points. And the number of tons in 8,000 pounds.
4.
And you thought it was going to be tough. 15 out of 15 on the bonus. Another 10-point toss-up. Arthur was the king. Lancelot was a knight. Merlin was a wizard. What was the name of the enchantress in this legend? We have Scott of Gilford.
I don't know.
Judges? Mascenic? Doug?
Morgan Le Fay.
Morgan Le Fay is right. Back to you, Mascenic. Literature, toms, and mythology.
Mythology.
Mythology with great enthusiasm. For 5 points each, answer these classical mythology questions. Eros was the Greek god of love. Who was his Roman equivalent?
Aphrodite.
It was Cupid. Which beautiful youth was loved by Aphrodite and killed by her other lover, the god Ares?
Poseidon.
It was Adonis. And what three-headed dog guarded the gates of the underworld?
Cerberus.
That's correct. 5 out of 15 on the bonus. And there's our whistle ending our bonus round, and we really have a dandy going after 2 rounds of play. It's Mascenic now on top by a score of 135 to 100 after 2 rounds of competition. So that'll bring us right into round number 3, which is our 60-second round. Each team will have 10 questions posed to them. They get 10 points for every correct answer, get all 10 in 60 seconds or less, and they get a bonus of 10 points. So we have about 110 points on the line for each team. The team trailing gets the categories first, so we go to Gilford, sports, science, or history.
Sports.
Go with sports, all right? Again, you can talk among yourself. Fergus, your team captain, gives me your answers. Answer these sports questions. Start the clock. What does a red light in hockey mean?
A goal.
Correct. The playing surface at Wimbledon is of what type?
Grass.
Correct. Name the racetrack the Preakness is run on.
Pimlico.
Correct. What sport do you find an area known as a wicket?
Croquet.
It's cricket. What sport is the Baden Trophy awarded in?
Hockey.
Golf. The batter was caught looking. What happened?
He struck out.
Judges, listen to that one. How many meters long is an Olympic swimming pool?
50 meters.
Correct. How many players on a men's lacrosse team?
11.
10. What is the major difference between a billiard table and a pool table?
One is more holes.
Judges, listen to that one. And is it legal to play handball without gloves?
No.
Correct. That ends the round, and we'll have the judges think about a couple of those answers, and there is the end. We know that of the round, and we'll just get the official number from the judges as they tally, and they ended up with 5 out of 10 on their 60-second round. All right, let's go over to Mascenic. Your categories are history or science.
History.
All right, history it will be. We want you to see how much U.S. history you know. Start the clock. What river was the TVA organized along?
Pass.
What state was the first to pass a Prohibition Act?
Pass.
Who discovered Alaska in 1740?
Stewart.
Bering. Mark David Chapman committed what crime in 1983?
He shot John Lennon.
Correct. First U.S. president sworn into office on an airplane?
Johnson.
Correct. What president pardoned Vietnam draft evaders?
Nixon.
Carter. What did John Wilkes Booth do for a living?
Actor.
Correct. Name the first American world chess champion.
Carpenter.
Bobby Fischer. Alexander Haig's job in 1981.
Secretary of State.
Correct. What did Oregon prohibit in 1845?
Alcohol.
It was slavery, and that ends our round there. Judges will add it up, and we'll have the count. They got 4 out of 10 on their 60-second round, so after 3 rounds of play, we have a dogfight. After 3 rounds, it's Mascenic 175 and Gilford 150. Okay, teams, well, here we go into the home stretch. We have a lot of time left, but 10-point toss-up questions the rest of the way, so no more talking among yourself, and good luck. Here we go. For 10 points, we want you to take a look at the monitor here in the studio. And what we want you to do, once we look at it, we want you to name the capital of the South American country that is shaded in that map. Matt of Mascenic.
Assumption.
That is correct. Assumption is right for 10 points. Another 10-point toss-up. The work done by a force of 1 dyne moving through a distance of 1 centimeter is specified by what 3-letter term? ERG, E-R-G, E-R-G. For 10 points. In what amendment to the Constitution is the due process of the law clause located? Mark of Mascenic.
The 4th.
Gilford? Scott?
The 3rd.
It is the 14th. The 14th. Another 10-pointer. What part of speech is usually indicated by these suffixes? A-T-E, I-Z-E, I-F-Y. Mark of Mascenic.
Adverb.
Guilford. Fergus.
An adjective.
Verbs. Verbs. Another 10-point toss-up on the line. Still plenty of time to go. Numbers such as 3 or 6 or 10 are said to be triangular numbers because sets of those numbers of elements can be arranged in triangles. What is the next largest square number after 9? Fergus of Gilford.
16.
Is correct for your 10 points. 16 is right. All right, again, for the second time tonight, we want you to listen to music, and we want you to name this group. Fergus of Guilford.
Steely Dan.
Steely Dan is right for 10 points. right, teams, here we go. What is the general name of the device that converts the chemical energy of substances such as hydrogen and oxygen into electrical energy? Fergus of Gilford.
A generator?
Mascenic? Doug?
Cyclotron?
We're looking for a fuel cell. Fuel cell for 10 points. She was a humanitarian and author. She was the niece of Theodore Roosevelt. Name this author of This Is My Story, My Days, This I Remember, On My Own. She was Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt. Just under 4 minutes to play, teams, for 10 points. He is reputed to have once said, "The way to have power is to take it." Who was this leader of the Democratic Party machine in New York City and leader in Tammany, Fergus of Gilford?
LaGuardia?
I can repeat it all for Mascenic. He is reputed to have once said, "The way to have power is to take it." Who was this leader of the Democratic Party machine in New York City and leader in Tammany Hall? Doug.
Boss Tweed?
Boss Tweed is right. 10 points. What document prepared initially by the executive branch reflects an allocation of financial resources by the federal government? Kyle of Gilford. The budget is the document, right on the nose. Many say he was the most influential painter of the 20th century. Name the Spanish artist who contributed Mark of Mascenic.
Picasso.
Picasso is right for another 10. All right, teams, very quickly now, look at the monitor in the studio and solve the simple equation, Matt of Mascenic. They don't get any easier than that. 2 is right for 10 points. It was an important landmark in world history. An Asian state had defeated one of the great European powers, heralding an end to a world order dominated by Europe. The year was 1905. Name the war. Mark of Mascenic. Wait a minute, judges. Okay, now Fergus of Gilford.
The Russo-Japanese War.
Russo-Japanese War is right for your 10 points. Another 10-pointer. Who in the 18th century cut away the lower parts of his distance glasses and the upper parts of his reading glasses, Matt of Mascenic?
Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin did for 10 points. What slang phrase consisting of 4 words and derived from the game of pool means that a person is in trouble? Ken of Gilford.
Under the 8 ball.
He is under the 8 ball. Judge, you're going to take that behind the 8 ball, under the 8 ball. Yes, you got it for 10 points. All right, we have just under 2 minutes to play, teams. The helium nucleus has been measured at 4.0280 AMU. For what does this abbreviation stand? Ken of Gilford.
Atomic mass unit.
Atomic mass units is right for 10 points. The Papal States were all located in a region presently occupied by what Mark of Mascenic?
Italy.
Italy. By what nation is right for 10 points? The aid of what lady was critical in Theseus's successful slaying of the Minotaur? Mark of Mascenic. Gilford. Rodney for 10 points with just under a minute to play. Skinnerian conditioning or instrumental conditioning is also known as? We have Mark of Mascenic. Gilford. All right, and it's called operant conditioning. What 3-letter title is associated with a person who has gone through the ceremony of investiture? Ken of Gilford.
Sir.
Sir is right for 10 points. Another 10-pointer on the line. What is the very first punctuation mark used in the first line of the poem entitled The Night Before Christmas? Mark of Mascenic.
Comma.
Wrong. Gilford. Fergus.
An apostrophe.
It was an apostrophe. That is correct for 10 points. And there's our final score. Look at that. Mascenic moves on with a final score of 235 to 230 tonight over Gilford. Well, that certainly is our closest first-round game to date of our brand-new season. We congratulate both Gilford and Mascenic for a very well-played opening round game. Hope you enjoyed it at home. We invite you now to join us again next week for another battle, this time between Conan High School and Lisbon Regional High School. Until that time, hope you enjoyed the game. See you next week, everybody.
Stay tuned now for New Hampshire Journal, followed by the Channel 11 Classical Hour. Today, the Classical Hour honors the late conductor Herbert von Karajan. Be sure to join us for the Karajan Legend, today at 7.
Good game, everybody.
Granite State Challenge has been made possible by grants from